Hi, I'm Audra, and I listen to Smut. All right, for those of you who are new here, which would be all of you because this is a new channel, I listen to audiobooks and I will be reviewing audiobooks, mostly fantasy romance novels, by three categories. One is going to be the story itself. Two is going to be the spice level, and three is going to be the narrators. I think that it's very important because as we move more into a world where more and more of us have less time to read, but we want to read, a lot of us are going to start listening to audiobooks, and I'm here to help you out with that. So today I'm going to be discussing the series Rite World Night Wolves, the complete series. So I got all 4 books. I feel like it was like $20 or something for all 4 of them. I got them on Audible. I know, Amazon, devil. It is what it is. The devil, you know. So I listened to all of them, and I'm not going to do a play-by-play of the book because I don't want to do a bunch of spoilers. There will be spoilers, but not tons. And the first thing I want to talk about is the story. Okay. If there's one thing I cannot stand in most romance novels is virgins. Because it never makes sense. Virgins in romance novels never make sense because they are always like, oh my God, me, a virgin, never having done anything. And then they're just like rock star lovers. Like and it doesn't make sense. You're just like, okay, what was the point in making her a virgin then? You know? But I also really hate stupid female protagonists. And Haygert is the female protagonist in this. Just dumber than a box of rocks. It's very irritating. It's hard to read because she's just, if I had been reading this book, like a physical copy of this book, I would have stopped reading it a long time ago. The story itself starts out well, but this is one of those examples of where when an author has ideas and wants to stack the story with like different obstacles, this author did not know how to do this properly. And here's what I mean. So you know how in a lot of books, especially when you have a series, but you know how a lot of them will do this thing where in the series, they will have like 1 to 2, sometimes 3 obstacles. And in the end, each and every one of those obstacles is overcome, but like each book tends to close out one obstacle and then it starts the next one, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we found my long lost sister. And then, unfortunately, she's behind bars, so you have like a next thing. And then you go into the next book and the whole thing is trying to figure out how to get her out of jail or whatever. That's not this story, but this is just the example. The next story is trying to figure out how to get her out of jail while also, finding your true love. And you get her out of jail, you have your true love, but unfortunately there's another big bad and you roll that into the next book. But each time something gets solved. These books don't do that at all. And when I tell you they don't do it at all, I mean at all. In any way, shape, or form, do these books do it? Every time an obstacle arises, it just like doesn't get solved. And you're sitting here like, I remember because I'm a mail carrier. I listen to books while I'm working. And I remember like yelling out loud, like, I'm so tired of this. Just solve something. Like screaming because it just starts to feel like all there are in this book are obstacles. There's no solutions, just obstacle beyond obstacle. And to make matters worse, all of these obstacles are solved so easily once they get to the problem solving portion of it. Here's what I mean. This is a spoiler. Haygert is with Shane, who, by the way, this is supposed to be, it's billed as enemies to lovers. That's not what this is because they're not truly enemies. True enemies to lovers are 2 people, my opinion, when I read a book, they are 2 people who hate each other for whatever happened. Something happened in the past or whatever, or they just have like a poor perception of one another and they have to, but usually something happened in the past, like he was a cop and he arrested her father and she'll never forgive him for that. But then they have to work together on this case and then they eventually can't fight the attraction between them. And it's like, it's a long drawn out thing. And you're, as the reader, along for this like really long, sexy ride of them not being able to deny their attraction. in this book, you have Heike and you have Shane. They are wolf shifters, and their enemies to lovers is like this fast. It's literally like, oh my God, you didn't like me. And he's like, no, I did. Okay. Like that is how it goes. And you're like, oh, that's the whole reason I bought it is because when it was paranormal fantasy and I was like, yes, supernatural fantasy, babes. But I also enjoy supernatural fantasy that has enemies to lovers because it's more fascinating than that was boring. But when I'm telling you that the situations are resolved so easily, they're both shifters. Unfortunately, Shane has been cursed and he has a shadow wolf. He was cursed by a witch and he has this like big kind of demonic shadow wolf that he can't really control and eventually will take him over, right? So you spend all this time being like, oh my gosh, this is really terrible. How are they going to solve it? They get the witch who cursed him. They confine her. They try to make her reverse the curse. She says she won't. And then just out of the blue, so easily, the way to solve said problem is that Heike looks at her vampire friend who's also a witch. She's a vampire and a witch. And says, because normally if you are a witch, you can't also be a vampire, but occasionally in some of these books, super witches somehow end up retaining their witchy powers. So that's what happens here. So at one point, she just looks at her and goes, wait, it's a blood spell. It's a blood curse. So why don't you just drink the witch and then like do the spell? She does, curse gone. Like that was all of this angst built up. And the problem solved was like so easy. Even when they get to the big bad, it's a blink and you miss it battle. Like it literally, like you, there's a whole thing. You've built this book up. We're on book 4. The battle is happening. And it's not even, it's just so like, oh, that's it. Like there's no satisfaction. There are multiple points. Another spoiler. There's a point where Shane and Heike are together, right? And he's finally ready to propose. He does so, something bad happens to her. This is the other thing I really hated, was that she couldn't really understand, the author really couldn't get a grasp on giving the reader any happy moments between the main characters. And you're just like, do they get it on? Yes. But do they have like real, genuine, like happy moments where you can just be like, no, every single one of them comes with like a dun, 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 dun. Like every single one of them comes with a bad baggage attached to it. They never really get to fully enjoy being together. They have to keep it a secret. I'm not going to get into super details about it, but they have to keep their mate bond a secret. And then the author has the nerve to use one of my least favorite things ever. I hate this plot device so much. And that plot device is amnesia. You guessed it, amnesia. Amnesia works in soap operas. And here's why it works. Because 1, soap operas are a wild time. But 2, the main reason that they use amnesia on soap operas is because, like John Black Roman, right? Usually the actor playing the character gets killed off because they usually think that they're about to become like a mainstream movie star, like either on a TV show or in movies. And so they're like, go ahead and kill off my character. It doesn't matter, right? However, it turns out to just be like a Lifetime movie and it doesn't bolster their career the way that they wanted to. So they want to come back to the show. And usually when they come back, but with amnesia. They don't know that they're John Black like that. And that's the whole point. And you can do that on soap operas because this happens often. However, in a book, you have to be really adept at utilizing an amnesia storyline, because if you don't do it right, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, and it's a lot of boredom for the reader. Case in point, Rite World. I have never been more bored in my life with someone who has amnesia because, spoiler alert, she dies and wakes up and she has amnesia. I was so tired of listening to Heike muse about like, how do I know I like books, but I don't remember anything about the past 2 weeks? Like, I don't remember anything about my life. Hated it. Wanted to set it on fire. Listening to her just do that over and over again. Repetitive, boring, and I kind of wanted, if this phone wasn't so expensive, I think I would have thrown it, because listening to, I wanted to expire because I couldn't deal with it. I was like, okay, can we get past it? Because the thing is, in book form, most authors who write amnesia in a book, especially in a romance novel, typically write it at the start. It starts there. It starts with the main character waking up with amnesia, not exactly knowing who they are. And then you build a story around that. And they don't spend all this time trying to figure out all this stuff. And the reason it's that way is because as a reader, when you're reading a book and you have amnesia, the reason I called it hurry up and wait is because you're having to reread shit that's already happened. And you're having to listen to this character like muse over and over again about all the things that they don't remember, which works on screen, which works on film. It does not work in book form. We read what happened. We know everything that happened. So watching her like, oh my God, I didn't remember stuff, was just too much. I was just like, because even in a show, when you know what happened, it's interesting to watch. It's not interesting to read. It is not interesting to read someone trying to figure it out. It is interesting if you start it that way. If you start the book and it's like, yeah, this is what happened. Sorry, I thought Bo was back there. When you start the book with the character having amnesia, the whole point is that you're building up this plot to them discovering who they were. And that's the point. It starts, build, they find out. And whether you're going into multiple books or just finishing the book with that, like one thing, you get to go along for the ride. With this, we've already been on the ride. I don't need to listen to her having amnesia. You could have just like had her wake up with amnesia and have like just cut out the rest of it. I didn't care. I did not care at all. I feel like this author had a good story, but could not figure out how to write it in a cohesive manner that kept the reader engaged. I disengaged from this multiple times. Like the first book started out and I was kind of like, definitely trigger warnings for physical abuse and assault of a woman, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, particularly in book one, there's a lot of Haygert getting slapped around. I don't like that. But I just feel like the author for this had good ideas, could not execute them. Poor execution. Listening to this mostly was a pain in the ass. And that brings me to, so the story is not good. I'm not like the, it's not good. I'm just going to give it like a page, not a page turner, just like a page, just like one horn of listening. So now we get to the narrators. This was narrated by Candace, Joice, and Maxx Pinkins. At first, I was really irritated with the way that Candace was reading this because it sounds very childish. It sounds like a child reading, and I was annoyed by most of it. I was just like, I can't deal with it. I absolutely can't. Her voice itself is pleasant, but the reading is childish. Hahowever, I had to give Candace her due because she's reading Haygert as childish because Haygert is written childish. Haygert is like this little virgin who doesn't have any sense. And if you listen to these books, you will find out exactly what I'm talking about throughout every single step of the way. She just like keeps falling for the same dumb shit. She doesn't have any planning abilities. And it's not just Haygert who's dumb. Shane's dumb too. All right. Shane is dumb as a box of rocks as well. I've never seen two main characters who are so stupid unintentionally. So I don't think the author meant for them to be dumb, but they're dumb. And I think part of that was her writing them in their 20s. But you can still do that. You can still write characters in their 20s and not have them be stupid. Especially because they are werewolves. That's what really also bothers me. Like, they're werewolves. Why are they dumb? Like, they've spent their lives. Anyways. But I will read more stuff with Candace's voice, like her narration. But this wasn't it. And I give her props for trying her best, because honestly, the writing isn't great here. And it does turn out like Haygert just is not a good protagonist at all. Maxx Pinkins does a really good job of reading for Shane. I love his voice. It's very calming, very chill, very relaxing. He does well with the sex scenes, as does Candace, kind of. But here's the thing, the spice. So for narration, I will give them 2 mics. I can't give them 5. It's like not their fault. I'm going to give them 3 mics. It's not their fault that the writing is bad. But I will say that maybe if Candace had tried to read Haygert a little less childish and maybe more gullible, maybe more, I don't know. I think that would have helped it. I'll give them 3 because of Maxx, because Maxx did a really good job. Now, when we get to spice level, y'all, this is a granny panty, okay? This is the granny panties of spice. There's not, like, I can appreciate when a paranormal romance doesn't have tons of spicy scenes. I'm fine with that, because sometimes some books do go overboard with them to where you're like, damn, every time. But there's so little spice. It doesn't even feel like there's chemistry between the characters. And that's weird for me to say, like, in a book, but it just didn't feel like they had a ton of chemistry. It just often felt like Shane was like, ooh, that ass. Like it was never really, like, I don't know, wasn't good. It felt a lot like, if you remember Harlequin romance novels, not like they're gone, but if you remember being a kid and getting a hold of your mom's Harlequin romance novel and skipping over the spicy scenes, right? But then you got older, reread one of those books. It is so tame. There's one time where they drop an F-bomb, and it's a finger F-bomb, finger effing. And that's it. It's not worth your time or energy. And to go back to the author and how poorly that they write things, there's something called everybody in the room. And every author has this situation arise, especially in a book series like this. You'll have everybody in the room. The thing is, you only point out the other people in the room because they are necessary to what's happening, right? Not in Rite World. When I tell you the amount of times that there will be like 9 people in a room and this author insists on naming all of them and you're waiting for it to mean something, it doesn't. Doesn't mean a damn thing. You're literally sitting here being like, and it's every time. It's every time. Every time everybody's in the room, it's like Susan, Jeffrey, Eric, Mike, Mark, Michael, and Elijah all came out with me. Girl, you could have said everybody walked out after you. Like, I don't know why you named everybody in the room. And that's why I feel like the author of these, I don't know how old they are. I'm going to go find out. I feel like they had to be young, because like that's how I wrote in middle school, because I thought you had to like be naming everybody. Not like I'm a writer now, but I thought you had to be naming everybody so everybody knew who everybody was. But you actually don't. You don't, because what I know is happening is that I feel like she has other books in these series, and like not just this one, but she has other books. It's Juliana Haygert, and she has a series of books that are called Rite World. There's a bunch of different ones. Okay. And they call her a best-selling author. I'm so confused. How? Because this series, I will try it one more by her. I will try one more by her and see if I can get through it. It looks like she has Candace, Joice, and like read almost all of them. But I didn't like it. I didn't like this book. I felt like bored most of the time, irritated, annoyed. The characters always made the worst choices. Resolution wasn't ever there. I felt like by the time we got to the end, it was very, very rushed to tie up all the loose ends that she had created by trying to stack more drama in there. It was just a lot. Now, I'm not going to, be mean. So for this, yes, I will. So for this book, it's going to get a granny panties, like 5 granny panties, because 5 being the most boring of grannies, like just all of the granny panties. It's going to get granny panties. Narration is going to get 3 mics, and story itself, it's just going to get like 1 book. I feel like we were close to having something good if she could have executed it properly. So that is that. I have started something new. This is a preview for our next review. And let me just give you a little some. Please hold.
He released me at the question, and I took a step away from him.
Watch where you're going next time. There are far worse creatures you can run into than me.
All right. That's it. I'm done. I think that's all. I'm finished.